is going on, guys, and welcome back to a new video. And the topic of today's video, it is very important to me and I think many of you out there as well. It is my final review of F1 22, my honest opinion about the game. And in the background you will see F1 22 gameplay, probably the last first that I've recorded previously, so you have something to look at and not just my face. Yeah, so what you can expect from me is a complete honest review. I'm not gonna be biased in any way. I'm gonna call the positives, the negatives, and my overall feeling of the game. So I have it structured in 6 points that I want to talk today. 6 is my final rating in terms of from 1 to 10. But I would like to begin with the overall game experience, like my enjoyment of the F1 game. And as a first key point, I have to say, it was quite disappointing. The F1 22 game, compared to previous years, I was not a big fan of F1 21 compared to 2020, where we were really spoiled in 2020 with a great game. And in 2021 it already took a step back, but F1 22 actually managed to top that out. So it felt very stale and repetitive. So that the game cycle, so the usual game cycle is like a few months in, and then it might become a bit boring and people stop watching videos and play the game. And then they start picking it back up when the season is starting. But this one felt like it actually ended before the end of last year, and that is a pretty bad thing. It even ended way ahead of that, I think. Maybe already in August, September. I felt like nobody wanted to play it. I remember when friends were playing F1 2021, especially streamer colleagues of me, German ones, they really had a great time, and they didn't even properly play F1 22. So that kind of describes it already. And even F1 streamers that usually play no matter what, even if the game is bad, were playing older games. So yeah. And aside from that, we had a year with a lot of frustrating bugs, and also for the esports side especially, no anti-cheat, which raised a lot of questions. I'm not really gonna talk about the whole cheating thing. I don't want to get involved with that. But yeah, I would have liked to see that in F1 22, especially when it was so recent. Anyway, so this was already the first point, the overall game experience for me on the game. Then I would like to raise the positives first, because there were not too many, but I think it's fair to start with these anyways. Alright, so arguably F1 22, if we have to be honest, is probably the most immersive experience you can get out of the new regulations anywhere online. I know there's Assetto Corsa, I know there are other games. On iRacing we had also the Mercedes, and these things are great, you know, they might feel a bit more realistic, but in terms of an actual F1 experience, like a full calendar, all racetracks, kind of F1 world embraced, we still have to say the F1 22 game was probably the most immersive experience you could get out there in any video game. Then again, they've introduced on PC at least virtual reality. I've never got to try it, and that was quite a cool thing that they finally did it. I mean, a lot of people wanted to see it, and they actually did introduce it in 22, so that was a good thing. Also, we had crossplay. Was it already in 21? I think it was like a test in 21, but in 22 it got properly implemented and the issues were way less. There are still issues, but definitely way less. So aside from this, customization also improved. It's just a small aspect, but I think still fair to say. Previous years I was roasting the game usually for the terrible in-game purchases, whilst they wanted to make money off that. The customization was often quite poor, and they stepped it up definitely this year. There was a lot more variety and cool content, so gotta give credit for that as well. So let's talk about game modes. They've introduced this game with F1 Live, and F1 Live I think was the biggest letdown ever. They hyped this up so bad. And it turned out to be something that nobody would ever touch in their life. Like, it's a thing, you look at it, then you check it out, and you're like, alright, this is the final time I'm gonna check it. Only if it would be mandatory to use it, you would use it, but I don't think anyone started the F1 game and thought, okay, today I'm gonna change my closet, or my table, my couch, my carpet. You couldn't even do anything. If you could have walked around in that F1 life and like do some mini games, maybe let's say air hockey with others online, it would be fun. Like stuff like that. Who knows? Could have been really fun to sometimes just walk around, similar to GTA, like open world, and mess around. But that was not the case. Then we had an introduction of supercars. We still have classic cars in 21. I don't know. I don't think so. I think 2020 was the final year. In 2021 we had only F2 cars, and in 22 we had F2 cars and F1 cars and supercars. And the supercars felt terrible. First of all, like they didn't have a great feeling to them. They were really drifty, and I think the handling in overall was very arcadey. They felt boring, especially because you couldn't race them. I mean, you're playing a racing game. The only way you could race them is in the challenge mode against AI, but you couldn't even do a full race against AI, like multiple laps. Or you couldn't go online against friends. If you could have done that, that would have been so much more fun, and I think people would have actually used them every now and then, even for content. Like, that's a no rules, Pori cars, supercars race. The amount of, like, there would be so many memes about that, like so many good videos, like from Jano, from me, from other YouTubers. We could have done so many things. Would have been really cool. Especially because there are also different manufacturers, Aston Martin, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari. I think these ones are in the game. Also my team felt like previous years before, so nothing has changed. It's just a few tweaks, but nothing where you would be like, this is game changing. It felt like previous years identical. And there was like boring adds to the shorter game cycle. The multiplayer still had a lot of issues, and we didn't have any servers, so connection was pretty poor. It's still peer-to-peer, and what else to say? It's just not a great multiplayer experience. Then the whole cheating things that people cheat in open lobbies and in professional league races, it's just not very nice of an experience. And then in general, the game modes, there was just a lack of content. Like no new game modes aside from this one elimination mode, and that was actually fun for many people. I never got to try it aside from once, and I didn't like it that much because damage was turned on. I was like, imagine you race people online as an esports driver. For example, for me, I'm streaming it, thinking, oh my god, this is gonna be so much fun, like racing against the clock, like you have to be ahead of the others to win. And if we do last to first, that's like an awesome challenge. And then you figure out people can just crash you out. I was like, maybe make him no damage and then one with damage for people that like it. All add it to the actual open lobby so we can do it against our community. It would be amazing. But that was a great mode, and I removed that again. So yeah. Aside from that, there were no new modes aside from F1 Live, and that was not even like something that you could play properly. Coming to number 4 of my list, and that is the handling. Because the heart of a game is always the handling. And the overall grip compared to previous years felt actually more realistic. Hear me out. You're probably thinking like, Marcel, the game felt awful in terms of grip. There's a difference of what I mean between grip and traction. I will talk about the traction. But the grip, compared to previous years, there was less sliding. It felt a bit less RNG in most cases. You could still slide, don't get me wrong. But it was way less, and that added to quite a nice experience in terms of the grip level. So that was a big positive. But that was the only positive about the handling. Regarding the new regulations, the cars were way too understeery. Low speed was a bit too much. It was not too far off, I would say, from real life. Maybe it was, but the cars were quite understeery in low speed, we knew that. But in the high speeds, like for example Cops in Silverstone, the fast right-hander where Max and Lewis crashed in 2021. In real life, they take this corner flat. And we have to do a proper lift in the game, even shift down. That is crazy. 2 understeer. That doesn't fit what Formula 1 stands for in real life, especially with the new regulations. But now let's get to the point that everyone is annoyed of. The traction. It was completely unrealistic. It was super frustrating, super annoying. Nobody liked it. Going on the throttle was like a lottery. So the thing is, it's a line of code. So it will always be the same, roughly, right? Depending on your steering input, tire life, grip level on the track, all of these variations. But technically, you could be spot on consistent with it. The reason why it felt so RNG or luck based, I've noted it as in real life there is also a limit to the traction on throttle, but it is first of all more gradual and it's not as strict. Drivers still push to the limit in real life and sometimes they overstep it and slide a little bit, but that slide is not going to completely throw the car into a different dimension, and that's what happened in the game. In F1 22 the traction felt like you were pushing towards a limit, and the more closer you got, the more you felt confidence. But once you got to that limit, you are trying to find more and more. With that keeping in mind, in real life, you could push a little bit more without getting punished big time. In the game, once you go just 0.1% over this limit, the car snapped. You got a wheel spin in 5th gear in Monza while it's already being full throttle sometimes. In turn 2, when going straight with the steering wheel. Stuff like that, just because the game didn't allow it, and it felt awful. It was disgusting. It was literally the worst experience I've ever felt on any sim racing title. And this is not roasting the game, this is just my honest feedback. And I hope they will never do this again, because I think nobody could endure another year of this. Even casual players stopped playing the game because the handling was a nightmare. So in overall, the handling was the main reason why this game completely failed. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it, but I think this explains it pretty well. Still, the grip was good, just the traction was not great. Bugs. Let's talk about bugs. That is actually the penultimate point. Many known ones over the last few years already. I'm not going to talk about these, but one of the more significant ones is the 60 FPS. That has apparently been a thing also in previous F1 games. But imagine, for people that don't know, if you limit your FPS to 60 in the game, or in Nvidia, or wherever you're able to limit your FPS on the PC, or in any console, the curbs will be flatter, your car will have more rotation, so you can run, also if the curbs are flatter, you can run the car lower without bouncing off it or jumping off. Like for example in Mexico, Monza, Imola, all of the high curbs, you gain so much time. It is not even close. And we had to run that in F1 esports as well. Imagine, like, it's a massive competition. Like, we're practicing so much. We have like insane machinery, like PCs, next level, everything's, I mean, look at the setup, all right, triple screen, everything super high tech, as close as possible to reality. And then we are running 60 FPS in 2022, 2023. Whilst every other game out there, every pro gamer is trying anything to get more FPS, to have a more fluent experience on a game. Yeah. Very, very annoying. But this is what we had to deal with, and I hope it's gonna get fixed, because there was game breaking. Everyone had to use it, otherwise you would be slower. And yeah. So let's round it off. Final rating, I would give the game a 3 out of 10 on a good day. On a really bad day, maybe a 1 or 2 out of 10. Really, it was that bad for me in terms of enjoyment. And I have trust in Codemasters. I have trust in EA. I'm positive for F1 23. Let's hope for a great year of virtual racing. And let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? What was your experience on the F1 game? I will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Yo, Marcel.